partway through turn 3 here. Western Romans moved northward in general. They actually abandoned part of Sicily. They kept the cities, so those are valuable for production. Their victory points at this point are all just the northern Italian cities, and so they're concentrating on rebuilding them and getting points for them. The Sardinians, like we saw, ran into Sicily to grab the extra points. And then the Berbers, who had very limited forces, they won Africa. They can't have it. They went and attacked the Vandals, got some points, and probably are going to get wiped out again. So here we are at the end of the turn 3, which is a victory point turn. I don't know how far we had gotten. I'm very good at this. I think we had gotten the Vandals. The African Romans spread out to grab the extra city. And then we go to the Huns and the Federati. Well, there aren't any Huns, of course. The Federati moved out of Apulia. They got a major invasion, which meant they get 2 turns in a row. A leader who has special rules if he's no longer on the board now. And they swept down, trying to take all of North Italy, but they failed. They didn't take Liguria, and they didn't take Perugia, and they did take Rome, which is big points. Then after scoring the points, let's see, because we're getting closer to somewhere interesting, Blue, who right now is just the African Romans, is at 33. Yellow, who is just the Sardinians, is at 20. Red, who's the Western Romans, is at 67.5. And then green, who's the Vandals and Federati, is at 50.5. Now, right now, position-wise, I'd say the green player has a better land presence and looks like he'll be generating points more quickly. I'm not sure what comes forward. We got Ostrogoths are yellow, Byzantines blue, the Patrimonium is red. That's going to be the church states, basically, what the Romans will finally turn into, the remainder. I can't imagine they're worth a lot of points, but I don't know. And the only red coming up is the Franks. Now, what's green coming up? Burgundians, Arabs. I'd say right now green is probably doing better than red. It's hard to tell though. Alright. Okay, here we are in turn 4, just before the Ostrogoth invasion coming in up there. What has happened? The Western Romans pretty much trying to hold stat. Sarda, same thing. The Berbers don't exist. The Vandals, yeah, the Vandals booted the Sardinians out of Sicily. That's about the extent of what they did. They also wiped out its fleet. The African Romans held steady over in South Italy. The Federati are trying to set up. They are the main force standing in the way of the Ostrogoth invasion, and they want to hold Ravenna if they can, because they get a penalty in combat if they lose that. They're trying to see if they can manage to at least slow it down. And we're ready for the Ostrogoths, and then after that we'll have the Avars. We're over here. A little incursion. So the turn continues. This is turn 4 with the Ostrogoths sweeping down, taking most but not quite all of North Italy. That was one of their goals. Scoring some 21 points, eliminating the Federati, and largely in a dominant position there. And we see the Avars jump somebody into Venice and somebody up to Noricum. They're allowed to live in those off-board areas. Alright, that moves it to turn 5. Well, something I kind of didn't notice. There was a massive invasion by the Byzantines. They flooded in up in the north. Really, across. They didn't take Naples because that's their buddy there, and they didn't want to take a risk of killing him. They grabbed Messina from the old Western Romans, who appear to be not quite bagged. They have a fleet left. They can't do anything with it. And a landing in Africa, which was successful. This was a major invasion, 2 pulses, and they had special rules to carry extra boats, or extra people on their boats, etc. Kind of petered out, and I don't expect it's going to last to the victory point stage with things like the Franks up here. I don't think that they're going to get the full points that they were hoping from it. We'll see. And we move to turn 6. All we had at the end were the Avars, who moved everything into Venetia to protect them from the Franks, and the Franks, who advanced, did a little bit of pillaging. This was a victory point turn, so I scored the points. And got some heavy gains by the Byzantines, of course. That brings blue up to 54. Moderate 7 for the Ostrogoths. We get 51 for yellow. Some pretty decent points for red, especially from the Franks at 11 and the Berbers at 4. They haven't been producing. Brings them up to 84. And then finally, moderate points by the Vandals, bringing green up to 61. Clearly red's in the lead by a good deal. I don't know what the predictive values are, though. The Franks look like they're going to be a point generator for a while. I looked at their card, and it stretches all the way to Charlemagne. It's not just a little incursion. Coming up in this next turn, we got a whole bunch of people coming into play. We got the Patrimonium, the Burgundians, the Lombards. Just a bunch of new people invading or showing up. So here we are at the start of turn 6 in Italia, second scenario. What's changed since the last time? Well, not much. Patrimonium papacy has shown up. Just appears in Rome. Byzantines had to withdraw, and the Western Roman fleet actually did convert. I didn't think it would. The Western Roman card only says infantry and legions. The Patrimonium card says all units. I would really rather not have to have this little guy out there on his own, even if it provides sort of an advantage. Also, we're going to see the Lombards coming in, and the Burgundians. No big special rules there. They're just making their way onto the map. So in the first half of the 6th turn, things stayed pretty even for the most part. There were some attempts to attack. For example, the Berbers attacked the Vandals. The Vandals attacked the Byzantines. These didn't really go anywhere. The one thing that we did see happen, the Ostrogoths made some attacks against the Franks, against the Byzantines, which were repulsed. And again, they took Ravenna, which is important to them. It's an important city for a number of the powers. In their case, it allows them to collect full income. And they collected up some kills, which is going to be worth, 3, 4, 5, 6 victory points. So the Byzantines had a campaign with Narses, who's sort of one of my favorite leaders I know very little about. He took over command after Belisarius, I believe, was murdered. No, Belisarius was killed, but I don't believe he was murdered. I'm not positive of that. But he had been left in Italy without sufficient forces. Narses was given this huge force, but I think this was his first command ever. He was a eunuch. He was 70 or 80 years old, blind. He never lost a battle. He fought a significant number of battles, and he never lost one. And his first command was, when he was a very old man. Anyway, he didn't do so well in this game. He came in with a campaign and a lot of money, swept down, moved to Rome, and the Pope said, "Oh, leave me alone," and submitted. Now that's a special kind of submission. They just get half victory points this turn, and then they get their chains back, and have freedom. And then Narcissus moved against Perusia, where he was beaten, fell back to Etruria again, made a quick shot up to Liguria at kind of even odds, and was beaten again. Total points that they picked up for all this activity was just 7.5, which probably is way low. Okay, so that's the end of 6, and what do we got? First of all, after, let's see, we finished up the Byzantines, Patrimonium sat still, Burgundians swept in and actually took Pavia. They had Liguria too, but the Franks came and booted them out of there. The Lombards made some attacks into Verona, where the Byzantines were, and they got repulsed there. And I believe they also attacked the Franks in Histria, and they made it there, but we see the Avars have knocked them out. A lot of motion, but very little pieces here. Very similar to what I'm used to in most of these games. Okay, so that's about it. A little bit of action going on, but not much. So the big influence right now is that the Arabs are coming on this turn. And they'll be coming in through Tripolitania. And it's done a number of things. Among others, the Berbers kind of set up in a vaguely defensive position. Sardinians didn't want to advance. They want to stay where they are. They think they're safe there, and they're collecting up their points. It's like the Caledonians in Britannia. But the Vandals said, "Wow, I'm green. These guys are green. Let's make it easy for them. I don't even really want to be in Africa anymore." And they migrated up to southern Italy. And they're also trying to migrate out of Sicily because the Arabs want Sicily as well. And they defeated the Byzantines there. They're going to work their way into southern Italy. The Ostrogoths made some moves against the Byzantines. They didn't completely succeed. For example, they didn't get this space. But largely they were trying to solidify their position for the end game. And likewise, then we had the Byzantines trying to recuperate. Now, they are so split up, so spread out everywhere. Stuff here, Africa. And then in the north, a couple of enclaves. In part because of how they played, but also the Afro-Hispanians showed up. The Afro-Romans converted over to Byzantine. Patrimonium spread out a little bit, hoping to be able to get better production that way. And the Lombards slid through with a major invasion, some 17 units. What's kind of tricky though, there's Ostrogoths in here, and that actually hurt the total points that the Lombards were able to make, but they didn't want to take away, and the Ostrogoths didn't want to leave something as valuable as Ravenna, because that's how they get their production. They also managed to subjugate the Pope and force some Franks into the Alps. But yeah, they pulled up, I guess, about 10 points off that. And the turn ends with the Arabs sweeping up and taking Africa, driving the Berbers back, and the Franks gathering together and chasing the Lombards, grabbing a couple of cities behind them. Alright, I'll wrap this one up and send it up to you.